Hello YouTube. Now I guess we're doing the second part, I guess, of the Predator tank being built. But I guess in a way this is more than just about the tanks, right? This is about like just building things in Warhammer 40k. I wanted to show the process off because for some people it might get a little bit, people might not quite understand how much effort actually goes into building each model, and I figured, since I've shown my army off a lot, and you guys have seen how it works, I figured, well, I may as well show you myself. So we have our tank right here's the model right here it is, and I'm gonna start just clipping everything out. This first little section, I guess, will just be me clipping stuff out that I need. Now keep in mind, we do have these instructions here, so it will be important to, later on the line when we get to the gluing stages, that we follow these. But right now we're just going to go through clipping out everything that we're going to need. Let's start off with the big one, the fun piece of the base, and let's just start clipping them out. And for some people, you'll like it. If you don't want to watch this part, you can skip ahead to when when the gluing happens, I guess. Might even do footnotes, kind of just improvising here a little bit with this, because I also, part of it is I don't necessarily want to do it all not on camera. Let's actually adjust this a bit, and let's zoom a bit out so we can kind of see the full extent of what we're doing here. Alright, so we just cut off this part of the Predator. This is going to be the main top. See, all even, all nice. Try not to bend pieces. That'd be really bad. We don't want to bend anything too much. Right now we're cutting out this piece right here. So you take your clippers and you cut all of the sprues out for everything. See, and then it's gonna come loose, and you'll notice here with 40k pieces that some of them you could bend off if you really wanted, but for me, I'm just gonna be cutting everything out with the cutters here. So I'm gonna come over here, we're gonna getting kind of close to the wheel, making sure it still looks like a wheel. As you can see, I mean, it's still right, it still looks round, right? So that's always good. And I'm gonna bring it down here. Won't always go super far in to that, but and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll admit, I wish I had some sort of editing tools to like speed up this section. That'd be really cool. But I figured I should make a video like this because I want people to have a realistic understanding of how it works, the construction of your 40k miniatures. All right, so then this, if I cut all of them, yep. So that's done. Oh, pieces fall. It's normal. Don't get discouraged if things fly out randomly. That's totally fine. Okay, what's next? Doors. Let's do the doors. Because why not? So we're going to cut these out. Right here. Yep. Cut that out. Fortunately, the cutting out itself isn't that bad of a process necessarily. And you don't have to worry too much about it, as long as you're confident. So I'm going to show you an example of when you can wiggle a piece out. See how this piece has a really small one? I can just twist it, because realistically we're gonna put paint on areas where maybe the gray isn't where the gray shows up. So that's quite interesting. And actually, give me 1 second. I'm actually going to adjust the angle of the camera. Great. Now we're doing fun angled stuff. Now I think it's a little easier. Hopefully this perspective of you guys hasn't changed too much. So we're going to cut out the front now, the front of the model. And ideally, when you want to be cutting these out, you want to you know, cut where it's necessary. So you see here, another fun teaching lesson. See how there's this extra stuff? I know that's paint because I built this before, so I know that's just extra paint that was there. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off. Even twisting it if necessary. Because when we glue it in, I might need you to file that down even, cutting across it more. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how tough it is. So these guys, I actually recommend twisting them out, except for the big one, because you don't need to. See, look at this piece right here. This is part of one half of your tracks, your tread tracks, and boom, comes right off. No need to worry about it at all. So, gonna just go ahead and do that. Oh, see, once again, we have an example of too much paint. Sometimes, you know, there's too much paint. That's what happens, but that's okay. I always would rather have used too much paint than too little paint, because it means there's less we have to paint over when we're done. Now these tire treads are going to be all black. I'm going to paint them black, so not too big of a deal. So see here how we're having trouble getting this guy off. It's mainly due to this paint, so I'm just going to kind of pop it out, and then it comes out. Boom, no problem. The edges of these ones aren't as big of a deal in general when you're taking them out, because well, one, they're not as bad, but you don't want to lose anything. Don't try if you can to make sure when you begin the construction of a model, when you have an environment where you can, you know, do it, but also it needs to be an undisturbed place, because when we get to the gluing process, right, that's going to take much longer than, well, this process. Because me just popping everything out, I mean, realistically, yeah, if I wasn't recording, I could go much faster, and, you know, I'd have the music playing, and everything would be, you know, a lot different. Okay, so sometimes they're really tough. Okay, that's just the reality. That's when we just go to our nifty tools to cut it out. Sometimes the paint's thick, you know, and then I can cut one out and try and twist it, and usually that'll work. I always prefer twisting them out over cutting them when possible, but sometimes sometimes it doesn't work out, and then you gotta try something new. Hold on, I'm gonna use, so it is coming off. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna cut it. I'll just cut it. This one's being stubborn. This is what happens when sometimes you have too much paint, and then sometimes it doesn't want to cut, and then it just gets much worse. So boom, cut it off. Easy peasy. We're gonna cut this off. We actually need all of these pieces. This whole sprue is gonna get used later on as we move on down the line. There will be things that we can choose not to cut out, which will be helpful. Okay, so again, see how there's all this paint buildup? We're gonna first kind of cut into that a bit. Yeah, just peel away the paint. It's dry. It's not like it's bad. It's not going to hurt anything. Again, nothing wrong with having too much paint. I like to cut these tracks. I don't know if I mentioned this. If you're following along, you can feel free to do so. But when I like to cut the tracks, I like to cut it with the pokey bits outward instead of this end, because I don't like cutting in. I want to cut out, if that makes sense. So that way, when I make the cut, I can line it up easier, and then it just works, you know. Again, all I'm doing is just cutting out the sprues of the tank. So that's one end. So here's a cool thing with the big ones. Once you cut out 3 of them, you can actually feel free to go ahead and flip it up like that. See, you can flip it up, and then you just do it a bunch. If you're feeling brave, you can pop it through the other end. It's a bit trickier to pop it through the other end, but you can do that. You boom, then it's out. Now it's going to get back to the door. Now be careful with these parts. We may or may not have to cut off these little ends, and I'll explain why later. But for now, just know that sometimes when you paint over things, like in the process that I do it, sometimes things won't stick together right or won't fall together right. Because technically, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to build it all and then paint it. But I don't like doing that because it means I can't spray paint the tank, which I consider to be a problem. So for this piece, this interior thing, That's actually not supposed to be there. We're going to cut that out. And see how... This is one of the things I'm not always a fan of. See how there's a little point sticking out near the sprue? Well, we're just going to have to be real careful about cutting it to make sure that the details are saved. But the sprue, but it's still cut out, see? We're able to very easily cut that off, and then of course you come up here and cut this section off. If I can get a good grip. There we go. And then again, okay, so that's one sprue, right? And then for this, we can just twist it. No, we can't. Too much paint, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Again, remembering, go onto the outside, cut on the outside. Now this part isn't that big of a deal because this is where the gun's gonna sit, the main head of the tank. So, you know, this part's gonna get covered anyway. Not a big deal. Didn't have to cut this piece out, but why not? All right, and that's one sprue done. Let's go ahead and move on to the other one, the main big sprue. We're not going to worry about the guy and the little stuff quite yet, cutting it out. But I am going to cut out, ideally, as much as possible. So this thing right here, you do want to cut it out. Don't try and twist it. That doesn't seem very good. If you're wondering what that is, that's like the front of the visor of the... You'll see. That's like where the guys look out of the tank when they're driving it. Pretty darn cool. Okay. So this piece is probably the most important piece you have. That's the base of it. And you really do want to, for some horrifying reason, they put the connection bits as part of the on where the sprues attach when it locks in. So let me just explain this real quick. So you see how here, and I was very careful this time because I have experience with this, but see how there's these holes there? These little outcropping bits, if you can see that, the little bump goes inside of that hole, and if you do it wrong and paint fills up, like, let me see if I have an example. I hope I don't. Okay. So they lock into these slots, right? But if you can't make them fit, then it doesn't. See how these holes are bigger? Well, no, they aren't. I guess they're... Or, sorry. Let me get them in the camera. The holes are technically different sizes, but I'll make it work. If that was confusing, it's okay. You'll see when I go through the building it with you guys what it is. So yes, we do need all of these parts. You don't necessarily need those, but I'm going to cut them out anyway. We're going to go through the full process of making the tank. I do very minimalistic building. Because I'll admit this is not my favorite part. My favorite part of the game is, well, playing the game and talking strategy and such. But this is the reality of the game that you kind of just have to be like, you know what, today we're doing this. So we're building this tank. So we're cutting it out. This is the control panel that'll be on the inside of your tank. It's not really visible generally, but it does give good support to help hold the tank together. So we're going to go ahead and cut this out. Trying to get as close to the model as possible when you actually make those cuts, so it easily pops out. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do this bigger one. Here, let me move the camera a little. Alright, so let's just go ahead and cut this guy out again. Cutting the, going for the wheels first. Now you can do this side if you want to on cutting it, but I like this side so I can just see, because that's where all the outside details are, and I want to make sure the details are kept intact to make it, you know, so it stays looking cool. Because you'll be surprised. When you go to look at other people's models, which I highly encourage you do, the detail that people put into them, it's crazy. If you really think about it, how much detail goes into making sure the paints are perfect and, you know, they're airbrushed and dried and such. I don't do all that. I don't do airbrushing. I like how shiny the paint is, and I kind of like how my Blood Angels look shiny. Compared to the Blood Angels player I played against, if you want to go back, or if you remember, if you look at the models themselves, they were very dusty and dry, and that's on purpose. He totally intended to do that, and that's a completely valid way of building Blood Angels or any Space Marines. This is to have that drier look. Looks like they're war-torn. My guys look kind of shiny, like they'd be standing in around in like a palace or something, but that's fine. you know, it's all stylistic. I just like it because it's a more metallic look, in my opinion. And, you know, Space Marines are wearing armor and such. So these guys right here, again, I don't really use them, but for the sake of this, I guess I'll cut them out. Kind of a pain to get out, too. I might cut these out off camera. Don't get mad at me for that, but these might need to, because I'm going to have to really get in close and, like, you won't be able to see it, so I'm not going to bother with that right now. That's just a random symbol you can glue on. I'm not going to bother with that, because I really don't need that. That's just decoration. And I like to do my decoration in how I paint it, my paint style of the way I place the black on my tanks. And since, you know, we're getting another tank, we're doing this. Now, something I was thinking about as I made my purchase is, oh, and by the way, we're just doing right now we're just going to do these treads as I explain some stuff. So I thought about getting a Devastator squad and getting las cannons on them, and I thought about it, and I was like, well, that could work, but I wanted kind of to have a tank with 4 las cannons on it. One, because it's, as far as I know, it's going to be, well, I guess maybe it's not cheaper points wise, but it's a tank, right? It has armor, it, you know, has a lot of wounds. It's like one giant model that has 4 weapons. Weapons can't be taken off, because say if you can target Marines and you can blow away weapons, and the squad would still be intact, still shooting, whereas the tank, you got to get through 11, you know, it's a Predator, alright, it has 11 wounds, which is fine, but if you have another 3rd Predator in the army, that's enough for, it's going to be a, hold on, sorry, I'm dealing with this. If you get a 3rd Predator, that's just another heavy-hitting tank, and this is a tank that's going to sit in the back, too. This isn't a, you know, and it's going to be better than the Vindicator, right? I'm just twisting that. So because it's going to be better than the Vindicator in terms of its damage, because Vindicator is really more for hordes, and honestly, I have enough horde stuff. If I'm going into Apocalypse, I'll bring the Vindicator, because that's a lot of hits it can do, but las cannons are kind of going to be better. Now, why not put on the auto gun, you might be thinking, or the Predator gun or Prowler, whatever. I don't know what it is, because I'm not using it, because I just don't want it. The main gun, right? So right, we've cut these out. I'll get to one of those things later. Look at this gun, right? Like, realistically, this is what the gun looks like. I'm not using it. I'm going to be using the las cannon. See that? That's a las cannon. That's an auto gun. Well, actually, I'm not sure what that is. That might actually just be the other half of the las cannon. Yeah, I think it is. It's just the other half of the las cannon. And I just think it's better because of its stats. And you get another shot, whereas this is just a single shot, which may or may not work. People don't really use the main gun because even though this is the gun that makes it look like a traditional tank, we're not going to go with that because more shots. I like having more shots. That's kind of my thing. I like having a lot of shots coming at you. So this is, just so you can see, this is how much what's in the pile of stuff that we've cut out and done, right? So let's go ahead and readjust a bit. Okay. And let's go ahead and cut out just the things we need from this one. So we need these pieces. I'm gonna need that. Gonna need that. Oh, wow, that is sneaky. They have a little tire tread right there. I'm gonna take that out now. I'm not sure why. Wow, you could totally miss that. That could have been horrible, because I would have been like, hey, where is it? So we're cutting out these las cannons now. And yes, the guns need to be built themselves. Everything needs to be built. It's actually part of the hobby, the building of it. So see, here's part where you got to be look carefully. See how there is a separation. So you got to make sure you're cutting right. And am I going to do this off camera? I think I can do it on camera. Yeah, I can do it on camera. Just don't get mad if you can't quite see what I'm doing. No, it's here it's a little off of focus. Let me zoom out a bit. Oh, it is zoomed out. Alright, well, this is as zoomed out as I can go to be able to see. You can focus. Alright, camera doesn't like focusing. Sorry about that. But I'm cutting a little thing in between. There, and I'm actually trying to be very careful. Okay. So that's cut out. Might need to do a little bit of trimming at some point. Silence. Focus. Gotta focus. I'll paint over it too if I need to. So that's one half of the gun being built, and before I cut out the other half, you can see what it's going to look like. It'll be, you know, put in like that, and you'll have these big guns that look amazing. It'll look cool. It's still going to look great. I mean, don't get me wrong, just because we're not using the one long gun. Plus, that's more likely to break on us. Like, if we're just looking at it from a realistic standpoint, if we're going to be investing our time into a model that's going to have, you know, guns that we don't want to break. I've never broken a model that I couldn't fix, but the physical breaking of a weapon itself has never happened to me, and I don't want to go through the hassle of doing that small of glue just to make a weapon look right, if that makes sense. It's not worth it. So you see, you kind of look on the sides, see how there's some gray. That's going to need to get painted over. That's going to need to get painted over. Not trimmed, though. Seriously, like, don't trim it, don't cut it. The more you cut, the more gray you have. Because keep in mind, you're cutting into the resin plastic. Okay. And again, less is more, because you can always cut more. Then see, at some point, this is how it's gonna get glued on. And I always like to kind of fiddle with the pieces, make sure they're gonna line up right. We're gonna have to glue them down, press them together. But this is essentially what this is the main gun of our tank that's gonna have. Pretty cool, in my opinion. I like it. I like getting some las cannon shots in there. Las cannons are pretty fun. Okay, let's move on to this. More of it. Here, let's cut out these ammo packs. Let's cut out. That's gonna go somewhere. I'm sure in the instructions it'll tell me. I haven't read the instructions yet, because you can't build anything if you haven't, you know, cut them up. Cut out all the items beforehand. That might be needed. And this is a cool decoration that I actually would want to use. Seems interesting. Now this is a pain in the ass. So look at how deceptive this is. You think you want to cut here, but you don't. You want to cut here and here, and you'll see. You actually want to cut there, and then you want to cut up here, right? And cut at the bottom here also. So you're looking carefully, right, to make sure you're cutting only the amount of plastic you need. So you cut there, and you cut there. Okay. Take that out. And I'm actually gonna, my battery's dying here, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut. Be right back. Alright, I'm back. Got batteries in it. Everything is going good. We just cut out this piece, which is gonna be the top of this gun emplacement when we eventually glue that down. Don't worry, we got glue right here. So we're just gonna go ahead and keep we're gonna keep cutting more of these sprues out, I would say. And for this one, remember, we want to cut in the middle there. Hopefully you got better light. This is, of course, actually happening on a completely different day. It's crazy. It's like Inception. How different it is. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut these out, and I guess what to talk about. Not sure. It sucks when you're doing these kind of things, and as relaxing as this is, as I absolutely love doing it, there are times when it makes me wonder, well, you know, I'm just here showing you guys how to cut out some instructions here. I mean, technically, if I really wanted to, you know, if you guys asked, I could show you cutting out of the, you know, like, what's it called? Like every piece has a number on it, but that's only going to be so helpful for so long. I'm not sure what some of this stuff even is, so guess I'll wait and see. We don't need these big guns because we're not. Obviously, I'm not going to use that because it won't be necessary, which is fine. So, I'm going to cut some stuff off right here, and then we're going to move on to the next part, I think. The next section of cutting. Anyway, so let's go ahead and work on these. So what do we have here that we're using today? Well, we have the las cannons. So you see these two, they'll go with one las cannon. These will go with the other las cannon. We're not using the heavy bolters. we're not doing heavy bolters because we want las cannons. Because this tank's all about las cannons, so I'm not going to bother cutting these out. We don't need them. Instead, we're going to cut out all this top stuff, of course, which is good. Here, I'll even move the pile of very important things out of the way, and I'll begin cutting the other side. So, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Again, I like to flip it over to the back side so I can cut appropriately. It's a very relaxed process, personally, that I find. Now, it's okay if things get a little weird. See how that's a good example of I made a little mistake, making a little too much gray, but again, no worries. That'll get painted over, and plus there'll be cover on it, so I'm not too concerned about that. It'll be fine. It will all be fine. No need to stress about that stuff. And mistakes happen, and that's another thing. If this is your first time building something, it's okay if you make a mistake, because while maybe it would be expensive to get replacement pieces, because we're not at the glue stage yet. The gluing stage, that's more stress-inducing because you can really wreck stuff if you do it wrong. But the cutting out of the sprues, you can always fix that in a weird, elaborate way. There's always a way. So boom, we cut those out. Now we're going to go ahead and cut out this panel here, this door. This is a cool side door, and you'll see when it's finished how all these pieces go together. And then once you do it, you won't even need to look at the instructions necessarily. And before you glue, it also helps to sometimes plan out what you're going to be doing, which is really good to do before you start. Well, obviously, because once you glue something, it's going to be kind of permanent. And while that's why I do recommend magnetizing if you ever feel like you're going to need to customize some options here. Now, keep in mind, if you're in a tournament with nice people, for whatever reason, you can have some, you can do proxies. That's okay. So I just twisted that off. See this piece right there? This just twists off. No reason to really worry about cutting it. I mean, you can, but it's kind of faster to just not. I don't know what these other little parts all are, but I'll twist these off too, because you're supposed to. I'm not, there's all kinds of weird details with this, but I assume it's just a Predator tank, right? Like, I'm not honestly too sure what these are for, but I'll twist them off for the sake of it. Let's go ahead and cut out some more pieces to kind of finish off the cutting, which is fine. Now, I'm doing it this way in the sense of I want to get all the cutting done out of the way first, so you can see how the process goes for cutting things out and then gluing. But if I was doing this on my own, I would actually only cut out as I needed pieces. But I happen to be in a safe environment where I know nothing's going to leave this room. I can't lose anything. So again, we left the... If you want to see what the heavy bolters look like, that's what heavy bolters look like. We're not using them, but they're there. And if you want to even look at what the las cannons are gonna look like, how they would fit together. So see how we made that little mistake? We'll paint over it. Not a big deal. And then those will get pressed together with glue, and then you're gonna have a las cannon. And the las cannon will attach, presumably, inside the hole. It's a very complicated mechanism, actually, getting those side sponses, so I like to glue them, assuming they're not going to be able to move around that much, which is okay. So then there's this stuff. This is for the guy. I'm actually going to hold off cutting on that, doing cutting for that, just because this video is getting a bit long, and I really would like to make sure, as the garage door opens underneath me, that we just get to the gluing of the main part of the tank, then we can worry about details, customization later. So in that case, guys, as usual, thank you so much for watching. I'm Elwirfy, and I'll see you guys next time.